Hello everybody and welcome back to Robert's Reviews. Today we are continuing our Leonardo Dicaprio series, which we are very close to, at least getting kind of sort of almost done. If you guys remember last week we went over Inception, which was a really solid movie with a lot of really fun twists. That one probably is a little spoilery. From now on, all of my reviews are going to be non-spoilery. If you guys want a spoiler review, please consider commenting that you want one. And please consider subscribing. It's a huge help. We're almost at 100 when I'm filming this. If we could top that soon, that'd be unbelievable. We're really going places. If I can eventually make this a full-time job, I'll be able to make better content for you guys with better audio and video quality. And I'll be able to afford an apartment so you don't hear babies screaming and all that stuff. So that'd be really cool if I can get there soon. But for now, we are in my bedroom with a big monitor that I just got. So I apologize if my eye line isn't correct. I'm working on it. But today we are going to be watching and talking about and reviewing J. Edgar. J. Edgar was released in 2011. It was written by Dustin Lance Black and directed by Clint Eastwood, which I was like, what? Why? I didn't even know he directed things. I guess he does. I looked it up and I was like, he does. He does direct things, which in my opinion is a big mistake, judging by this movie. Essentially, this movie follows J. Edgar Hoover, who is like the leader of the FBI. For a lot of years. He follows, I think it was like 8 presidents or something like that. This is a real at least based on a true story. I don't really know anything about J. Edgar Hoover at all. I know we talked about him in class like maybe once. I was not good at history, never was, never will be. So this movie was at least interesting to watch things from. I think film is a great educational tool, which reminds me I should make a video about that. I think that this movie is educational, and I think that a lot of educational films work really well. This one didn't work very well in terms of it being a movie, but in terms of education, I learned a lot more about J. Edgar Hoover in general. Whether or not all of it is true, more or less, I think is my understanding of it. We follow J. Edgar as he becomes the leader of the FBI. He discovers that he wants to have fingerprints in the systems. He's trying to crack this big case in the past, right? He's trying to crack this case on this person who kidnapped somebody and killed them. But in the present, we see him writing a book with a typist, and he is basically saying he's going over the whole case. But really what the film is also about is his relationship to Clyde Tolson here, who is a gentleman who he interviews and accepts a job when he's younger and basically becomes a second-hand man, and they become really close. There's a lot of issues with this movie, I'm going to go ahead and talk about them one by one, and I'll talk about the good and the bad parts of both of them. First of all, the directing. Very incredibly lazy. Most of this film was just, you're kind of just sitting there and you're watching conversations, which some movies do really well at just filming a conversation and making it entertaining at very least. This is not one of them. You sit there and you watch this dry conversation, and it is the most boring thing you'll have ever listened to in your entire life. And there's nothing to look at, nothing to watch. It's rough. I'm not a huge fan of this directing movie. Eastwood, I don't think is qualified as a director. I think at this point, I haven't seen anything good from him. I've only ever seen this movie, but I've heard that the rest of his movies are also not very good, and this just might not be for him. It's rough. It's a dry movie, especially in terms of directing. The dialogue has a right to be good. It could be good. It could be a good movie. Instead, they were like, no, let's make it bad and boring and dry. Which brings me to the writing, which is not bad. I think that in terms of it being a movie that goes back and forth in time, it could work at least sort of well. It could pass as a good movie. This just can't. I don't understand that something must have been lost in translation between the script and the directing. I don't know what it was. Something was lost. We went from a really interesting script, and it was translated into a poorly directed movie. And I wish we had a different director here that could handle this kind of dry but interesting language here. We have a lot of really good lines, a lot of really great storytelling, and the directing is just boring. It doesn't reflect that at all. Instead, we get a really boring conversation for 2 hours. It's not a very entertaining film. So if you like films with like action and stuff, this is not for you. We should definitely bring up the makeup. Holy crap, it's bad. So like I'm sitting here watching the movie, right, and we get like Leonardo DiCaprio as J. Edgar Hoover when he's like Leonardo DiCaprio's age. Sorry, it's really funny. And then we get to see Leonardo DiCaprio when he's old. It looks so dumb. I wish I could like explain to you how bad it is. I'm not gonna post a picture because I don't really care to. But if you guys have seen the movie or are interested in watching the movie, I think you should, if only to laugh at the really awful old makeup. It's really not good. I think that there are times where it works for them. It's not very good. And the techniques are okay, right? Like, when you're doing makeup for a film, particularly if you're going to go from young to old, right? When you are young, you want to have everything lit so it looks really nice. If you're old, you want to have it more top lit because you're going to have these shadows from your eyelids, right? Because your eyelids are, like, protruding, right? They're, like, protruding. That's so dumb, huh? So it's going to cast a shadow here. It'll cast a shadow here. It'll automatically, naturally give you some age lines. But the foundation, you could like see the foundation on the skin here. Which brings me to Citizen Kane, which if you watch Citizen Kane, when the end of it, when Orson Welles becomes old, we see that he uses a lot of foundation, very, very clear foundation, very, very white, to make him look pale and old. And at the time, it was acceptable because we didn't have any other way to do it. Here we have way many other ways to do it, and it just looks really, really bad and really, really, really not good. And this isn't just for Leonardo DiCaprio. This is also for Armie Hammer, who also was old. The wigs were not very convincing. I don't even think Armie Hammer wore a wig. I think it's a good chance. No, he probably did because his hairline was receded. It wasn't very good. I think Armie Hammer's makeup was better than Leonardo DiCaprio's because he had all these like liver spots which looked really good, but Leonardo DiCaprio's did not look very good at all. It was big distraction. And besides the three actors I'm about to mention, the acting itself wasn't very good either. It felt really boring and dry. The three actors I'm going to talk about were all pretty good. I didn't have that much of an issue, but I had a huge issue watching the movie and being entertained. I just wasn't entertained by this movie almost at all. It's a really big issue. But we're dragging the time along, so let me go ahead and start talking about the acting so we can wrap this up a little quicker. Leonardo DiCaprio as J. Edgar Hoover, fine. I think that mainly they chose him for his looks because they can make him look like J. Edgar Hoover way easier. Do I think he was perfect for the part? No, I unfortunately do not. After watching Shutter Island and Inception, we had two really great movies with Leonardo DiCaprio, and we were about due for a bad movie from him anyway. And unfortunately, this is the one. Very, very displeased with this movie in general. I did not like the character of J. Edgar Hoover, although I guess is that a personal thing? Because he's technically a real person? I'm not sure. I think Leonardo DiCaprio tried his best to make an interesting character, particularly when he was younger. He had these moments, like when he was trying to detect this area. I felt like, oh, this is actually getting somewhere. We're getting really cool stuff. And then they were like, drop it. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. That really bothered me. I don't think this is his best performance by any way, shape, or form. I also don't think it's his worst performance, because The Man in the Iron Mask is still a movie. But I haven't decided if I think this is worse or better than The Man in the Iron Mask, which doesn't really matter because I'm rating this by itself, but I am going to be doing a video when the Leonardo DiCaprio movies are done, comparing all of them and deciding which ones I think were the best. And I don't know where this is going to lie in terms of the worst. It's definitely going to be towards the worst. I don't know if it is the worst, but it's towards the worst. Naomi Watts as Helen Gandy. She doesn't have a whole lot of screen time, and when she is there, she doesn't have a whole lot of lines and stuff to do. I just wanted to mention it because she is technically one of the main build cast. She's fine. I like Naomi Watts a lot. I think she might even have had the best performance because it was such a natural performance for her. Nothing else seemed, it wasn't something that she couldn't do. you can't put an actor in somewhere where you can't do it. And this is definitely one of the ones where she could. I mean, it was, hey, play this typist secretary lady. And she's like, okay, and then just does it, which is fine. That's what you expect from her, and that's what you got. Armie Hammer as Clyde Tolson. I was shocked because the only thing I'd ever seen with Armie Hammer in it was Crisis, which just came out like a few days before I watched this movie, and I was like taken aback at how young he was, and I was like, oh yeah, this is 10 years ago. But he looks really young, but he did very, very well. I think he had the best performance in this entire movie. I liked him when he was younger. I liked him when he was older. I think he did a very, very, very good job. I liked him in Crisis as well, although I didn't really like Crisis. I liked him in Crisis. And one thing that I do want to mention that isn't a spoiler, because if you know J. Edgar Hoover, this is kind of a thing that hasn't talked about for a while. They blossom into a relationship, which is nice. Armie Hammer and Leonardo DiCaprio's characters, they do. And I think it's really nice in how they put it together. I'm not going to spoil anything that happens in terms of the relationship, although you could just look it up. But it's a good relationship. I think that they both handle it very, very well, and I really enjoyed watching it. I think that was the best part of the film, was like watching the relationship between those two. The rest of the movie didn't need. It was not very great. There's some good parts of the film, like the detective part where he's detecting that case. There's the court cases that I actually really enjoyed. I liked Armie Hammer a lot, but for the most part, this movie is very dry and very boring, and the directing just doesn't reciprocate what the script could have been for. And therefore, I'm going to have to give J. Edgar a C. I think a C is a fair grade, but you guys can let me know in the comments down below, what did you guys think of J. Edgar? If you guys have any thoughts on it, please comment down below. I love reading other people's thoughts. My buddy Julian does it all the time, and it's a lot of fun. I like reading them and deciding whether or not I agree, and then I like to respond. So if you guys consider commenting down below, I will like it and respond. Please consider subscribing. We're very close to another goal, so make sure you guys do that. Looking for the rest of the week, we have Runaway Season 1, Last Flag Flying, Total Recall, the new one, Alien, and Godzilla on Sunday, as well as another review on Sunday because I have to do a film club review. Plus, The Vault comes out on Friday. There might be another movie coming out on Friday. I haven't looked into it too hard because that's far in the future for me. But hopefully you guys will have at least a couple new releases for that day. But that's going to do it for me today. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I hope you guys are having a great day. And as always, keep watching movies and television, stay educated, and I'll see you guys in the next video.